All right, here we are again. The Illinois Green Party series. I'm your host, David Rich. We have a special guest on, Bill Redpath, chair of Illinois Libertarian Party, also on the national level, the Ballot Access coordinator, correct, or advisor, or either.
Coordinator technically is the
Coordinator. Okay.
I guess that's the technical title, I guess.
Okay. Good.
You can call
So
me
no,
either
no,
or.
no, no small stuff there. You know, being chair of a third largest political party in the country for an entire state. That's got to keep you going. And then, of course, the ballot access on the national level. That's a big one, and we're going to be talking
Right,
about that tonight.
right.
Because as you know, he's the chair of the Libertarian Party. This is a Green Party show. We got third Libertarianism. A Libertarian Party is the third largest political party in the country. The Green Party is the fourth. So we're kind of in the media the two biggest third parties that the duopoly is ever more so becoming afraid of, which I love. So exactly, lots. It's like progressive radio and stuff like that. And these guys are terrified of third parties, and that's okay by me. So anyway, Mr. Redpath, so why don't you talk to us a bit about what you do on the national level with the ballot access thing?
Well, I run petition drives in states where we need ballot access to earn ballot access for
Mhm.
our presidential ticket and sometimes for other candidates as well. The focus of the Libertarian National Committee is on getting presidential ballot access because, I mean, that is the presidential ticket are the only nationally elected offices. But beyond that, it's easier. A lot of people don't realize this, but it's easier to get on the ballot for president in all 50 states, much easier than it would be, say, to get on the ballot for all 435 U.S. House seats or
Huh.
all 33 or 34 U.S. Senate seats that come up every 2 years. And
Really?
so it's yeah. I mean, a lot of people talk to me. Of course, these days I'm getting a lot of people talking about RFK Jr. Oh, and RFK,
Yeah. He's
is he going to be able to make the ballot in all 50 states in D.C.? And going the easiest route in each state, by my calculation, and it differs from state to state whether to do a full party petition. It's crazy. In some states, it's easier to get on the ballot as a full party than as an independent candidate.
that is very,
It seems very
very counterintuitive.
incongruous would be,
Yeah.
I think, the word. But anyway, I figured 668,414 valid signatures would get Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on the ballot, or any other independent candidate or third party
Uh-huh.
candidate on the
Yeah.
ballot in all 50 states plus DC. Now, there are a few states in there where there's a filing fee. I put 0 SIGs for that. There would be a cost for certain states where a filing fee would get it done. But that's basically it. The main thrust is trying to get the presidential ticket on the ballot in as many states as possible. And the Libertarian Party historically has been pretty successful at that. We
Yeah.
have achieved 50 state plus DC ballot status for 5 of our last 8 presidential tickets. And that's a record I'm proud of, and we're trying to continue that. Although it's a tough year. I mean, with the existence of RFK Jr. and then no labels, the whole question mark surrounding them, and various challenges that are internal to the Libertarian Party. So it's a challenging year for us in terms of ballot access.
Yeah, very interesting. Very cool. So, I mean, we both had this happen to us, each party respectively. We had Cornell West kind of like come on over and then leave. And then RFK, didn't he like kind of talk to you guys for a little while? And
I
then,
I
am I wrong there?
I really I've not been privy to any of those discussions, so I
Okay.
really don't know. I know about as much as you do, or maybe a
Okay.
smidge more. So I don't know what's going to happen. People ask me, "Is he going to seek the Libertarian nomination?" The answer
Right.
is, I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, and we have sticking around Jill Stein, who ran under our flag before,
Hmm.
very popular amongst Greens,
Hmm.
and some outside of us. She's making us a splash too. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm looking into it more than usual about it. It seems like there's a lot more chatter about third party candidates this time around.
Well,
But
I think
go ahead.
I think you're right. I
Yeah.
think that and part of that again is due to the unpopularity of Trump and Biden. It's that's people are looking for an alternative. I've been out there petitioning in Illinois. The weather's been crappy, and it's going to be bad again tomorrow, maybe
Worse.
even again Thursday.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
and so, but I have been out there and several days already, and there are people who uh, a lot of most people decline to sign the petition, but there are people who say
Hmm.
absolutely, and specifically reference can't stand the R's, can't stand the D's, or can't
Right.
stand Trump, can't stand Biden. So there is a
Yeah.
lot of there are a lot of upset people about the politics of our time.
It's a very divisive election cycle. Neither candidate is popular overall. They all both have serious problems going on. The phrase. I mean, this is doesn't get more loaded than this, but genocide Joe. Like, wow, that's a pretty that's a
That's
rather
yeah.
pointed label. And a lot of people think that the whole Israeli Gaza thing is going to hurt them like bad. And then the other side of thing, and that's just on his side, and like more on the left side. The right side is, of course, the immigration, border wall, all that kind of stuff. So and nobody is. I don't know very many people that are looking forward to this election. They.
No.
This is why like you're saying, I think it's pretty. The third party candidates are a little hotter right now, higher profile right now because people are actually looking at them as a possible option. We'll see what happens.
Mhm.
But well, that's very cool. Any word from Spike Cohen on anything, or not going?
Other than he's not running for anything,
Oh, okay, that's what I was.
Spike is out there. He has a great organization called "You Are the Power."
Yeah, no, I'm a member. It's awesome.
Okay, me too. And
Yeah,
they go and do things in very worthy causes that don't make the headlines, but they try to get them to make the headlines, so to speak,
yeah, oh
for
yeah, oh yeah,
very very local things that you wouldn't hear about, but are very impactful in
hmm,
various communities. And
yeah,
he has
for
done
sure.
a great job. And a lot of people, Brian Lambrick, Jenny Floyd,
Yep,
people that
yep,
I know, have been working with him, and I think they're making an impact in a lot of ways.
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, he's a very high profile libertarian as well. He is. If you don't know that name, anybody, he was the last election's VP candidate
2020.
for 2020, right? Along with Joe Jorgensen, who is the presidential candidate, who I had the pleasure of meeting and actually interviewing on my radio show, which was great. I
Mhm.
really love Joe. So okay, well, so what about like local state elections or countywide or anything like that? Are you finding any typical sort of obstacles going on here? I mean, anything like I mean, it's still a little early.
Well, but it's petitioning time here in Illinois, but the thing is
True, that's
this,
true.
is that it is the ballot access laws of this state are so horrible that
That's ridiculous.
it's just, I mean, you just can't even really try. I mean, I ran 2 years ago for U.S. Senate and 4 years ago for U.S. House, but I got on the ballot for U.S. House because of the court order that, due to COVID-19,
COVID, yeah,
uh,
yeah,
that any Green Party or Libertarian Party candidate, we both sued the state of Illinois, but the ruling was from a U.S. District Court judge that for any office for which the Green Party or the Libertarian Party was on the ballot in 2018 or 2016, they were automatically put on the ballot for 2020. And for any other office, the
oh,
petitioning requirement was cut to 10% of the required amount. And that made 16,000 signatures, which is utterly ridiculous. 16,000
it's
signatures to get
laughable.
on the ballot for Congress in my congressional district was sliced to 1,600 signatures, and that was
Yeah,
doable. So I got on the ballot. I was challenged. One of my opponents uh, tried to work like hell to kick me off the ballot, but they failed, and I remained on the ballot. So, but I wouldn't have, I can't run every election cycle. I ran the last two. I was going to take it off this year, but there's no U.S. Senate race. We could put, if there were a U.S. Senate race this year in Illinois, we could put a U.S. Senate candidate on the same petition as the presidential ticket.
yeah,
But every other down ticket office, U.S. House, State Senate, and a third of the state Senate is up this year for re-election. And but when on average this year in Illinois for U.S. House, it's 12,000 signatures to get valid signatures in highly gerrymandered districts. Okay, I mean, you have to have people within that district, and these districts snake out, all over the place, and they intentionally make it very hard for independent third-party candidates. But I was going to go down the numbers. I got waylaid there for a moment. On average this year for U.S. House in Illinois, 12,000 valid signatures to get on the ballot for each and every, on average, U.S. House district. I lived in Virginia, 1985 to 2019. It's 1,000 valid signatures to get on the ballot for U.S. House in Virginia.
For a third party.
For third party or
Wow.
independent, 1,000 signatures. Yeah.
Okay.
State Senate this year, for the seats that are up, on average, it's about 2,900 valid signatures of registered voters to get on the ballot for State Senate in Illinois. In Virginia, in comparison, State Senate, 250 signatures. State House here in Illinois this year, on average, about 1,600 signatures to get on the ballot. For State House in Virginia, it's 125 signatures. So, I mean, I've tried lobbying the state legislature on this, or certain members of the state legislature. I went down 6 weeks ago to Springfield. I think it'll be 6 weeks tomorrow. It was the day of the State of the State address by Governor Pritzker.
Yeah.
And I went around and handed out copies of my op-ed from the Chicago Tribune last July 10, 2023. I had an op-ed. People can find the op-ed, by the way. You can Google Chicago Tribune Redpath, and it will come up immediately. And then I also have I've sent a lot of emails. It's about a 2.5-page letter making specific requests for changes in Illinois ballot access laws. I mean, they've stayed up nights, believe me. They've stayed up nights thinking of ways besides just the high signature requirements. They make it difficult in other ways for third-party and independent candidates to get on the ballot. It's truly a ridiculous situation, and frankly, it's something that you would expect from an authoritarian government, not a government in a democracy like the United States.
No, sir. Well said. Yeah, have you ever heard like any sort of like explanation from the duopoly side of it, like why they do I don't imagine. Well, maybe they are. I don't know, but like if you ask them, like, why do you make it so much more difficult? Like because we're trying to keep them off the ballot. We're maniacal and nefarious. Like I'm assuming they give me some sort of attempt at a rational reason why.
Well, they float things like, usually there is no defense. First of all, usually there's no defense. They'll just sit there and listen, and not react. Right? I mean, they just they just don't react.
Like a dog that's baffled.
If there is, sometimes it'd be like, well, we don't want a cluttered ballot. And yeah, I mean, come on, in 2022, all 118 state house in Illinois and all 59 state Senate seats were up. It happens every time with a year ending in 2 in Illinois. So you had 177 elections for the state house and Senate combined.
Wow.
There were 0 independent candidates on the general election ballot and 0 third-party candidates on the ballot. Every single race was either only a Republican or only a Democrat, or a Republican versus a Democrat on the ballot. That was it. With respect to the cluttered ballot thing, the U.S. Supreme Court, in a case from about, I think it was about 50 years ago, maybe, or maybe even 60 years ago at this point, Williams v. Rhodes, and it said in that opinion that an election with 8 candidates on the ballot would not be a cluttered ballot. 8 candidates, and this is from the U.S. Supreme Court in Williams v. Rhodes. You can look it up. And but the other thing is, they instituted this 25,000 signature rule about 90 years ago. I believe it was about 90 years ago. but it was after the 1932 general election in Illinois. Back in 1932, the governor's election was in the same year as presidential elections. I don't know when it changed over to midterm elections, but there was a governor election in 1932. There were 6 candidates on the ballot. There were Republican and Democrat. There was a socialist candidate. There was a communist candidate, and there was another party I forget, plus an independent. Okay, the number of signatures required for a political party to get on the ballot for that election was 0. There was a petition for independent candidates. I believe it was about 1,000 valid signatures but it was a very low number of signatures. And with that, there were only 6 candidates on the ballot for governor. Then sometime shortly after that, they jacked up the signature requirement to 25,000. I have heard that they were concerned there were inroads being made, I think, by Robert La Follette or by socialist candidates in Wisconsin, and they wanted to put an end to that. Can't have that. So we're going to jack up the signature requirements and make sure they don't make the ballot. And in any event, it's been a long time, with this situation in Illinois. And, I mean, it's a democratic machine state. I mean, they're not going to change things very easily here, and it's ultimately going to be up to the people of Illinois, to do something other than, put up with the system as it is, or tune out and just focus on other things in your life. Really, the people of Illinois are going to need to speak up and say, we want more effective choice at the ballot box, and it's going to have to come from the people of the state to demand changes to the sclerotic election system in this state.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's why it's important, I think, to continue to have this conversation, and to let people know. I mean, I talk to my friends and people about it. I've talked about it in other areas on shows and stuff like that, dozens upon dozens upon dozens upon dozens of times, because it's so important. And I think people actually want that option, the greater amount of options. I think every time I've talked to somebody about it in the general public, nobody's ever disagreed with it. Everybody's always said yes, of course. But I don't think they understand how to get there.
Right.
It doesn't come up as like a campaign issue as much. Probably that, again, more conversation. If we raise the awareness of it a bunch, then hopefully it will. It's probably going to have to come down to some sort of referendum. Do you want ballot access, ranked choice voting, say, and ballot access?
Well, but there's no initiative or there's no statutory in Illinois, and only part of the Constitution is subject to amendment by referendum.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay,
just a certain. And I'm sorry, I'm not an expert on that. I should be, but something so it's just, I mean, it's a situation where, I mean, really the state legislature, the Democratic Party, have the people right where they want them in this state. Quite frankly, I mean, we don't have term limits. Don't have term limits. Ballot access is very difficult. Things are gerrymandered. There's no initiative and referendum to speak of at all.
Right.
It's the situation is set up to maintain the status quo in this
state.
It
really is.
We take extraordinary effort by the people of this state to change things for the better.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I know Joyce Mason, and I know some local judges and politicians and stuff, and even on the local level, it's very clicky, too clicky. There's I don't know anybody that's in a third. I'm sorry, I know Peter Schwartzman is the mayor of Galesburg. He's a Green Party guy. That's the only person I know that's in any sort of like political office anywhere. So Peter's a great guy. That's about it though. So okay, I mean, anything going on locally by you as far as people running and stuff like that?
No, not that I know of. No.
Okay. Yeah. No, we got a couple people like Tennille Jackson is running for the MWRD, Municipal Water Reclamation something. In Chicago, she's run before, didn't win, obviously. And we got somebody else coming out of like in Champaign-Urbana, running for Congress. So yeah, we got a couple. We'll see how that goes. But okay. So being a chair of the third largest political party in a pretty good sized state, how is that? Like, I mean, like, what does the chair do? 'Cause that's like
Uh,
the top. That's the top of the list there, right?
well, I would say that certainly the chair is. I chair monthly meetings. We have board meetings every month. I'm trying to set an example right now. I've made a pledge of 1,300 signatures, and in this petition drive, which I figured, 25,000 valid signatures. We'll probably need about 35,000 total signatures, and so 100 average of 100 signatures a week times 13 weeks is 1,300 signatures times 27 is 35,100. So I'm trying to set an example in terms of that. Oversee communications to people in the party, reach out, try to activate people within the party, try to fundraise, of course, try to just communicate with members and try to activate them to get involved and either run for office or help people to run for office, and definitely help gather signatures on this petition drive. And then it was before I was chair. Well, I was the U.S. Senate candidate in 2022, U.S. House 6th Congressional District in 2020. That was before I was chair. But because I've run for office, I'm just trying to set an example in terms of activism
Yeah.
with people in the party.
Very cool. Yeah, I was like a week away from being able to be on the electoral college. One of the qualifications, one of the things that has to not be the case to be qualified is you can't have like voted in the party's primary. And like a week before, I have friends in local offices that I voted for them in their primary, and I was like, no, because I'm really, I could have been in an electoral college. That's so cool. Not that I like the electoral college, but I think it would just be a cool little notch on my belt, if you will. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So yeah, how do you guys do that? How do you decide that amongst yourselves? Because I mean, you've had presidential. You got Gary Johnson and Bill Weld. Is that his name? Bill Weld.
2016.
Yeah. Okay. So like, I mean, how do you guys go about just? Because at this point, like, I remember like my friend Anna. Well, you know Anna. Like, she just asked me, "Hey, you want to be on electoral college?" I'm
Right.
like, "Yeah."
Right.
You know.
Yes. Right. That's pretty much it. Right.
Okay.
I mean, we have some formal process, but we didn't use it really. It's just, I was just like, come on, we got to fill this out. Got to fill this out as a slate of electors. So anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. No, she was a little concerned though she wasn't going to make the quota, but I guess she did, so that's good.
Okay.
But now Jill Stein's got to get on the ballot. I think she will. I think she'll do okay here. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I hate making like vapid speculations about things that I have no idea what I'm about. Well, that's very cool. Okay, and you have your like convention coming up, or did you already have it?
So we've
Or
already
like
had our state convention. We had our state convention 3 weeks ago. Yeah. Or 3.5 weeks ago. I beg your pardon?
Very cool. I said very cool.
Yep.
That went well. Everybody had a good time.
Well, I think people had a good time. We had a presidential debate. We had 7 people who were seeking the presidential nomination to get on the ballot, or who are trying to get the nomination, I should say. They came. There was a presidential debate.
How'd that go?
It went well. I mean, it was about 2 hours long. We streamed it on YouTube.
Right.
It was interesting. No blood on the floor, when it was over. So to that extent, it went well.
That's very cool.
It was an interesting, it was an entertaining debate.
Very cool. Yeah, I don't know what we're doing with ours. I mean, they had the convention. Ours is super small. I think it was in a restaurant or something. Yeah, I think they were talking about getting like some people up to like debate each other. I know that Jill Stein wants to debate RFK Jr. So we'll see if that happens. I don't know. How about getting like I remember Cash Jackson when he was running for governor was able to get on one debate on WGN. Remember that?
I was not here at the time. I've never seen it. I was not. It was 2018. I was not living in Illinois then.
Oh, that's right. You lived in Virginia until 2019.
Correct.
Okay, I think I just think of you as like a long-term like Illinoisan because you like Chicago sports. I think that's why. That's usually how it goes.
So I know people who are involved, but no, that was 2018.
Okay, cool. Well, okay. Well, anyway, he did, and he was able to show. And then, like after that, he didn't make the cut. I don't know why. He made the first one, but that's another obstacle. Like another one, like is that they won't let us on the debate stages. I mean, they like you said, they just like stay up at night, like thinking of ways to like keep us out of here, out of their hair. And it's just like it's so blatantly anti-democracy, and like it really is just unbelievably blatant. And so it's hard to imagine that they don't know that they're doing this on purpose, maliciously, malevolently. As far as like a cluttered ballot or anything like that, I mean, you just say, okay, you pick a number. 2 is not the right number. What'd you say the Supreme Court said? 8? 8? That sounds, that sounds decent. 8 to 10, maybe, I don't know. That sounds right. Also, everybody, there's a comment section on the right here if you want to leave a question, comment, concern, tell a brief little story or something. I don't know, say hi, whatever you want to do. All right, anything exciting happening with okay, well, let's talk about ranked choice voting. Okay, so ballot access and ranked choice voting are not the same thing. Obsolete optics, it says you can't vote your way out of fascism. Well, that's true, but I don't think we're quite there yet. What was I going to say? Oh, ranked choice voting, because ballot access and ranked choice voting, in a sense, go together, but are actually independent of one another.
No, they're completely separate issues, I think.
No, they are separate. I'm 100% separate. You're right, but I think people couple them together because, like, ballot access means little. I'm sorry, ranked choice voting means little if we don't get ballot access. Because I mean, Democrats can just run more than one Democrat. Republicans can run more than one Republican. You still have ranked choice voting. You have a multitude of options, not just 2, if they wanted to do that.
Well, no? All right. Well, I think maybe you may be conflating 2 things here, and that is open primaries with ranked choice voting. Is that what you're talking about? Did you say that? I'm sorry, I misunderstood maybe what you said. I think you said something. There could be more than one Republican or more than one Democrat.
I'm saying that with ranked choice. Okay, how would you explain the separate, just the distinction between ballot access and ranked choice voting?
Well, ballot access is simply the ability to get your name on the ballot. Okay, right. It does not speak to the voting system once candidates are on the ballot. All right. Right. Then ranked choice voting could be used in different ways. A lot of people, or there's a reform movement going on out there, which some people like, some people don't like, that is called either top 2 or top 4 or top 5, which has an open primary, and then the top 2 or top 4 or top 5 then advance to the general election ballot. That's simply a normal vote. They don't use ranked choice voting in the primary. People just vote for one candidate. Then with top 4, the top 4 finishers then advance to the general election ballot, and then ranked choice voting is used to select a single winner, or single winner from top 5. Now with top 2, you have only 2 candidates going to the general election ballot. Ranked choice voting isn't going to help you there with just 2 candidates on the ballot. But you don't have to have open primaries to have ranked choice voting. You could have a situation where each party has its nominee on the general election ballot, and you could use ranked choice voting just for that. So ranked choice voting need not be combined with an open primary.
Fair enough. Okay. And ranked choice voting is, but like I said, I mean, people kind of like want, but I just heard a lot of people say that they want both. Is that like is there a consensus there amongst the libertarians about that same thing?
What
that they would prefer to have ballot access and ranked choice voting, or is one more important?
I would say so. I mean, I think that yes, I would want ranked choice voting. I think ranked choice voting is a good thing for third-party candidates. Now, I've heard people say, "Well, it doesn't get them elected." Well, that's true, by and large, that is true, but it does do two things. It's going to mean with ranked choice voting, it's going to do away with the so-called wasted vote syndrome. So there's going to be more, sorry, I'm blanking here. There's going to be more earned media with doing away with the ranked,
first past the post.
Doing away with the wasted vote syndrome is what I'm trying to say.
Oh,
you
yeah,
would do you would get more earned media, and also there would be fewer debate exclusions. So those are good things. Now, I think that you're going to have to go to some sort of system of proportional representation to actually get third-party candidates elected into legislatures on a widespread basis. So a lot of people say, well, ranked choice voting, it just props up the two major parties. The reason that you get so many R's and D's against ranked choice voting, particularly Republicans, it's really a toxic issue with certain Republicans, is that I think that they just don't even want to open the door a little crack, just a little way for
Sarah Palin flipped out because of ranked choice voting. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she lost because she was a lousy candidate.
We know that, but she blamed ranked choice vote.
Of course, it's just absolutely ridiculous. There were simply a lot of Republicans who preferred Mary Patola, I believe is her name, to Sarah Palin. Sarah Palin has not been popular in Alaska. She resigned as governor back in the day, basically when she had a chance to make some good money. She chose basically, well, I don't need this governor job. I'm going to go do something else. Well, I could see where that would upset a lot of Alaskans. So right. Her problem wasn't ranked choice voting. Sarah Palin's problem was Sarah Palin.
Yeah, no, for sure, no doubt. But I just remember seeing the video. She's like in a stairwell or something, and she's like screaming at somebody on the phone about ranked choice voting, and that's why she lost. And like she threw the phone or something. Just like threw a fit over. We're all like, no, sorry, honey, but you lost because you're just, like you said, a terrible candidate. Maybe not even a very good person. Okay. Oh, well, that's cool. That's interesting. What I want to talk more about, like, okay, so like you mentioned something, and it reminded me of like the spoiler effect. That people think that third-party candidates or independent candidates are spoilers for their duopoly. And I don't know that the math actually bears that out. What I do know, and it's not a lot, and I'm hoping you can fill in some stuff, is that they've done exit polls where, like, at least the vast majority of them concerning this specific issue, people said the ones that have voted for third-party or independent candidates said they would not have voted if those options weren't there. So that automatically, if you just had the two privileged candidates of the D and the R, and no, there wouldn't have been any sort of like takeaway from anybody because they wouldn't have voted in those elections anyway, right? Do I have that right? You heard this before?
That is the argument sometimes, yeah. That basically well, first of all, I sort of look upon that as irrelevant. People's votes belong to themselves. The voters' votes belong to the voters. They don't belong to a political party. They don't belong to a candidate. They belong to the voter. And yes, some people say, well, I'm going to vote strategically, and I'm going to sort of, I'm not going to vote my conscience here. I'm going to vote for the lesser of two evils. Well, they're welcome to do that, and a lot of people do that. A lot of other people say, no, I'm going to vote and try to communicate what my values are, because I think a vote for a Libertarian or vote for a Green, vote for a minor party candidate, there's a lot of information I think that is communicated to the authorities, to the public at large, by voting for such candidates. So I think that there's that. And also, by the way, there's been some research done on this. And for instance, and Richard Winger has brought this up regarding the presence of Henry Wallace in the presidential election of 1948. You would think Henry Wallace, being a former Democrat at that time, I forget the party, he was a progressive, and I forget the name of the party he was running under in 1948. But he was definitely a progressive in the day, and you would think that a progressive would hurt the Democratic candidate. But there was a professor, and I forget the professor's name offhand, who's done research on this, and he actually did research and thought that Henry Wallace's presence in the 1948 presidential election helped Harry Truman. It did not hurt Harry Truman. So this spoiler effect out there is very. I think it's not very solidly proven by empirical research, I think, and it is it's something that is just wheeled out as sort of a partisan, insult, if you will. It's used. That charge is used for partisan purposes, but I don't think there's a lot really to back it up. And they bring up Ralph Nader in 2000. You know what? Florida might have gone the other way if it hadn't been for that butterfly ballot. I mean, that there was a horrible ballot design in Palm Beach County. Why not blame that instead of Ralph Nader in 2000?
That was the chit. Is that what it's called? The chit,
right.
Or chat? Or Chad or something?
Chad, thank you. Hanging Chad.
That's it.
That's what it was called. The Hanging Chads.
So, yeah, the Hanging Chads. Exactly. Yeah, it should be like a name of like a circus show.
Pat Buchanan did phenomenally well in Palm Beach County. And was he really that popular? And no. There are people who say they mistakenly voted for Pat Buchanan instead of Al Gore due to the design of the ballot in that county.
Right. You know, and then of course our response, at least I know some of people's on the third party side, the response to them is like, you know, hey, like if you want to win an election, put up a better candidate. You know, and then they get mad at us for saying that because, like, how dare you blame us for failing our election? You clearly stole it. You know, there's no such thing as stealing a vote, as you just, described. You know, there's no such thing as a wasted vote if you're voting your conscience. You know, I mean, yeah, I mean, I've had discussions with friends of mine who's like, oh, it's a wasted vote. I'm like, it's a wasted vote because I'm not voting for your preferred candidate. I'm like, do you hear yourself? Do you even hear what you're saying?
I've really, you're throwing your vote away, something like that. Well, it's mine. First of all, I don't think I am, but it's my vote. If I want to throw it away, and then, I mean, you could make an argument that the real spoilers are non-voters. I mean, so I'm not advocating mandatory voting. Okay, I'm not advocating that. I think people have the right to not be involved in politics if they don't want to, and not vote if they don't want to. But I mean, you could make an argument that they're the real spoilers. If you want to roll out the epithets. So anyway, it's all
scapegoating, and it's nonsense, and it's adolescent. And it's irresponsible and just unbecoming in so many ways. It reminds me of you're saying like the people who don't vote. Why don't we include that in our analysis of why certain candidates don't win and stuff like that? It's absolutely correct. I mean, I don't have the percentage in mind right now, but I know there's a lot of people in this country that can vote and don't.
I run across it where it's not a large percentage, but I do get people who say I gave up voting years ago. They see they think politics is crazy now, and
which it is. But
a lot of people gave it up. But a lot of people just gave it up years ago. They grew frustrated. They thought they weren't being listened to. And let's face it. I mean, there are all sorts. There are a plethora of entertainment options out there. Why not enjoy life and say screw it? If you want to do that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I know some people that are my Uncle Frank, and he's always been very attentive to politics. My whole life we've talked politics. And I saw him a couple months ago, and he asked me about the election. And I'm like, well, I'm a Green Party guy, and that's Joe Stein this, blah, 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 that. And he's like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to vote this time. I'm like, really? I'm like, dude, and he voted Libertarian. When did Trump run? 2016.
2016.
He was always been a staunch Republican, always. But he, like many other Republicans, just saw right through Trump's nonsense and said, okay. He voted for Gary Johnson. I remember because he kept telling me he voted for an independent. I'm like, you voted for a Libertarian. Those are not the same thing. Okay.
Right.
Because people sometimes conflate that.
I know.
I think
a lot
the independent party. Right,
when I'm petitioning, there are people out there. I mean, I just want to get, I want to get the signature, but sometimes people say that I explain a libertarian. Is that, they'll say, is that like an independent? And I go, yes. Oh, okay. They'll sign. I don't,
well,
I don't want to say it kind of is. I just don't want to split hairs with people, and particularly when
No.
I'm trying to get signatures, I don't want to misrepresent anything, but also I don't want to get into in-depth conversation.
It's a long conversation for a
when
signature,
when you're out petitioning, getting signatures, long conversations are ixnay. I just forget it.
for sure.
I will excuse myself politely, say I'm out here to get signatures. I just can't have a conversation.
I understand. And what you're saying is not false. It is
Right.
like it.
It is like an independent.
Or like
Right.
independence. There is a similarity. That's what the word like means. Similar to. So
There you go.
It doesn't mean exactly as. It doesn't have to, at least.
Right.
So that's very cool. That's very cool. I mean, I know, like, obviously we got, people, Anna, whoever, go on petition and everything else. I've never petitioned. Well, that's not true. I take that back. When I was in the Libertarian Party, I actually petitioned because I was running for something. But I was a bartender at the time. So basically I just let everybody to come to me and say, hey, sign this, which was cool. Like Les Duffner was out in the streets and the corners getting his signatures for me. And I just never did any of that. Is it suck or is it enjoyable? Is it both? Like, I mean, how does petitioning door to door? I don't know. I don't handle rejection.
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, I never go door to door for petitioning unless I have to.
Oh, okay.
Or I know the people. If it's going to be an easy signature, I'll go up to somebody's door. But
okay.
Now there are some instances where, for instance, in highly gerrymandered, well, let's talk about state house. If you're running for state house in Chicago, let's say, or something like that, you've got highly gerrymandered, reasonably compact state house districts, okay, with high population density. If you stand out on the street and just gather signatures, you're going to have an incredible out of district problem with people signing. People have to be from within that district. And I will tell you that it is a single digit percentage of the population who can name their state rep and state senator. What state representative district? Now, I'm a political guy, so I can tell you I live in State House District 66 and State Senate District 33 and Congressional District 8. But very few people do that. But otherwise, if you have a statewide petition, I don't know why one would go door to door. It's slow. Get out there and get it. When you can get anybody in the state to sign, you want to be out in the public somewhere where there's good foot traffic.
Yeah. But sometimes you have to endure just dismal weather conditions. Which is never fun.
You can't. Petitioning and precipitation absolutely doesn't mix. If it's raining, you have to go somewhere where there's an overhang.
Right. And hope people walk by.
Can't get the sheets wet.
When in 2020, with the COVID thing, like you mentioned earlier, and the different, like you needed like 10% of the normal, it was 16,000, went down to 1,600, that kind of thing. Where I was at, I think it went from 12,000 to 1,200. I remember the number 1,200.
Right.
And they also allowed for electronic signatures, which we all were very excited about, Brian and I and everybody, and it did not pan out nearly as well as we thought. It did for you, though, didn't it? Didn't that part help you?
No, not really.
I'm wrong. Okay.
No, I will say, I've heard some things later. I think electronic signatures can work, and I was very skeptical of their efficacy. However, for Ballot Access News several months ago, I wrote an article on electronic signatures, and in the process of interviewing people, came across a Green Party member in Maryland named Andy Ellis and some Libertarian Party members, and they both could use electronic signatures, and the Libertarians said that without electronic signatures in 2020, the Libertarian Party wouldn't have made the ballot in Maryland. We had a petition drive, and they really think electronic signatures made the difference.
That's right.
I think that it has to do with the marketing. You've got to somehow drive people to sign up. I mean, there's in the process of talking about electronic signatures versus so-called wet signatures, the standard ink on paper signatures that, we sign all over the place. I used to say, I was skeptical because I said petitioning is reminds me of an old saying about life insurance that probably so old nobody uses it anymore. There was an old saying about life insurance that life insurance isn't bought, it's sold. And petitioning is the same way. I mean, it's I think is that you have to ask someone to sign the petition. You have to solicit them and ask them to sign the petition. And I do think electronic signatures can work, but I'm certainly no expert on how to get people to affirmatively go somewhere and sign a petition online. That is, I'd have to defer to people who are expert on online marketing, I suppose, on how to do that.
Yeah. And I remember like part of my sales pitch was like making sure they knew that like, but signing the petition was not voting for me. Because there were at the time like I knew a handful of people that I knew around me identified as libertarian ideologically, but I don't think they were like members of the party directly. Yeah. So
No,
like I remember that.
Yeah, in my pitch, I say to people in my pitch that it's not an endorsement. It doesn't say that you'll vote for us, but I also tell people in my pitch how many signatures we need. But we need the signatures of 25,000 registered voters in the state of Illinois just to get on the ballot to give people a choice. And people don't know that that is important information that nobody knows. And I've been accused by some people that I tell them my pitch. My pitch is sort of like, excuse me, sir or ma'am, could you sign a petition to allow the Libertarian Party presidential ticket to return to the ballot in Illinois this fall? It's not an endorsement. It's not saying you'll vote for us, but we need 25,000 signatures, ... And some people say, oh, Bill, it's too much information. I don't think it is because, well, I mean, first of all, I talk fast. I really talk fast when I'm petitioning because I want to make my coherent pitch within about 15 to 20 seconds. Okay.
Yeah,
the 15 to 20 second pitch at most. That's it. And I like being upfront about it. But whatever style works for people where they're not misrepresenting anything, they're not lying, that's okay. I mean, but I don't prefer to say, well, I'm trying to get a friend on the ballot. I'm just right up front about it. It's the Libertarian Party presidential ticket. And I think that people appreciate that, me being upfront about what the petition is.
Yeah, no, for sure. And 15 to 20 seconds seems reasonable to me. I mean, again, I'm not trained in like sales or anything, but so it seems reasonable to me. And you don't need to give them the entire history of political parties, starting with like the Whigs and the carpetbaggers or something weird like that. But yeah, no, for sure. That's very cool. I know we only have a few minutes left here. I was just wondering if you would like kind of give your notion, or if you want to think of like maybe a consensus among libertarians or your own personal spin concerning the Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Like point out to me like specific types of things, issues, characteristics about each one of them that you think why it's so important to vote third party instead of either one of them.
Well,
if you can pick just three.
Well, I don't know if I'll have three, but I will say that Donald Trump needs to be kept out of the Oval Office. Period. I mean, he's a dangerous individual. He serves only himself. He doesn't serve this nation, and he would do anything to save his own skin. Including compromise national security. I wouldn't be surprised if he has seriously already compromised national security. And the way he tried to keep those documents, I mean, it's a truly horrible thing. I mean, Biden kept it. Biden made some mistakes too. He's not perfect, but the situations are not comparable.
No, they're not.
Trump tried to keep the documents. He tried to hide the documents, change their location, stuff like that. They're both big government spenders. But Trump simply I couldn't support the man based on his behavior, even if I agreed with him on the issues. Just on
it's like the lack of moral.
Just on his personal behavior.
He's a scumbag. He's a scumbag.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then with respect to Joe Biden, government is just too big. I know that the Green Party and the Libertarian Party have some differences on economic issues, but government spending is out of control in this nation, and we have to. The one thing neither of those two guys is going to do is address the entitlement crisis in this nation. The growing government debt is a situation that is going to hurt our prosperity. It's going to slow long-term economic growth. It could even be a national security issue in this nation in the future. And it just seems like, that the Biden administration just wants to grow government. And there was just a story on, I guess it was in the Wall Street Journal. Both of those men want to bring back economic policies or wants to bring back nostalgia economics, or that's what they're dealing with now, is nostalgic economics. And they want to bring back a world from decades ago where manufacturing was dominant and labor unions were strong, and they're not looking to the future. Neither of them are looking to the future. And they're both trying to bring us back to some sort of 1950s economic world here in the United States. They're both too protectionist. Speaking as a libertarian, they both stand for high tariffs to protect American jobs, which I think definitely hurts the prosperity. As a libertarian, I think we ought to have a pro-consumer trade policy, because we're all consumers. But after that, we splinter and we have different professions and different interests. So they both are simply want government to continue to be too large. Donald Trump is not a conservative, and he is completely ill-suited in terms of temperament for the Oval Office. God forbid that he makes it back.
Oh man, isn't he like beating Biden in the polls? Not that polls are worth a shit.
I've seen other. I see polls where Trump is up. I see polls where Biden is up. I don't know. I think it's going to be a rough summer for Donald Trump. I really do. It's
there's still all the law stuff, the legal stuff. I mean, he's not getting out of trouble by any stretch. $450 million. Oh man, that's just one. There's a couple of these that could like literally land him in jail. Well, the classified files thing that could land him in jail for like treason and espionage and all sorts of stuff.
No, I mean,
that's nasty.
It could be on the January 6th trial when that goes to trial. 6th trial, yeah. If it goes to trial, I mean, that could be very serious penalty for him.
Yeah, and Joe Biden can barely, complete a sentence. And I don't know how you like. I just watched that. I don't remember her name, but her press secretary person, just defended this man's clearly declining cognitive states. As like if nothing's happening, and we don't see this happen on TV like almost every single week, if not every other day or so, where he just can't finish a sentence, he loses his train of thought, he uses the wrong words, he misremembers things, and she's like, no, he's fine, and we're like, no, he's not. Okay, and Trump's showing some signs of that too, and they're old, man, and I'm not trying to be like you can be old and have wherewithal for sure. They just happen to not be those people. So, again, folks, good reason to at least check out your third party candidates, Green and Libertarian, and for sure. So we're about at the end here. Is there anything you wanted to sum it all up with?
No, I think we've covered it. I think we've covered it.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of good stuff here as far as like third party obstacles, opportunities, that kind of thing. And there's a lot, and it's so clearly rigged, folks. And like, I hope you really like kind of like take that and hold on to that. Jill Stein's watching.
Hey, Jill.
Hi, Jill.
I hope to meet Jill Stein someday. I have never met Jill Stein in person.
Wow.
So,
well, hello, Jill Stein. It's very pleasure. I hope to have her on the show sometime.
Do that someday.
Yeah, that'd be great. So yeah, third party is definitely the way to go. And I'm excited about this election cycle for the third parties. People such as Jill Stein are getting the names out there and getting the word out there. It's very, very cool. Jill, I watched a lot of your stuff and a lot of the interviews, and you're doing a great job for us. So thank you. So yeah, all right. Well, thank you so much, Bill Redpath, chair of Illinois Libertarian Party, national ballot access coordinator, busy man out there petitioning in the rain.
Yeah.
doing his
Busy
due
days for sure.
diligence.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so that's great. So I know, thank you so much for coming on. Always a pleasure talking to you. I always learn a lot. So we got a lot of viewers going on right now. So this is great. Everybody,
Okay.
thanks for tuning in to the Other Green Party. I'm your host, David Rich. Till next time, be good, be green. Later. Thanks, Joe.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Excellent.